wanted to thank you all for coming. As Wendy said, that this is our last presentation in the current series, and we are looking forward to doing more in the future. And I also wanted to ask you if you would be sure to visit the library history room whenever that you want to check information or share some of your memorabilia, because the history room is just this treasure trove of information, and it was discovered by Placentia's media production coordinator, Eric Lowy, who's not able to be here tonight, but he assisted with the research for the discussion tonight, and he located a document in the history room that was created by the past Heritage Festival chairman, Marvin Reed, and it gives short summaries of the first 40 years. I couldn't believe it was 40 years, but then you think back, yeah, we're going on to 52 this time. So this year's will be the 52nd parade. And then there were additional material updates of the information. So someone has kept up a little bit of updates there, and it didn't say it was Marvin, so I don't know who did that, but thank you, whoever it was. And so that's the kind of things that you can contribute to the history room, or you can come in and use. So on with the information about the Heritage Festival. The first annual Heritage Festival and Parade took place in the very middle of the 60s. You know, the decade of political discontent and crazy social change. Think Vietnam War, Cuban Missile Crisis, assassinations and fallout shelters. Remember the feminine mystique, flower children, the Beatles, tie-dye shirts and miniskirts? It was a time, too, of rapid growth for Placentia. The population more than doubled in the first 5 years of the decade, growing from only 5,861 to 13,249. In just 5 years, an incredible growth. The city had 5 elementary schools, 1 intermediate school, 1 high school, and 1 parochial school. Placentia had no hospitals, but many churches serving the major denominations. And this you will note in the course of the talk too, that the churches were very prominent in the activities. And then there were only 2 undeveloped park sites and just limited shopping facilities. And so Placentia, as you can see, was quite the emerging young community. So here is how Marv Reed remembers the start of his Heritage Days tradition in May of 1965. He says, quote, "The festival was developed as an idea of Frank Freeman, who was president of the newly formed Placentia JCs. They were young men, 21 to 35 years old, from throughout the city. The JCs wanted to make their mark in Placentia and, at the same time, create a celebration that would bring together the various parts of the community. They started planning a series of events that would include a parade, a street dance, a costume party, and a teen dance. They asked the Chamber of Commerce to include their pancake breakfast that had been an annual event for several years already, and then they planned a picnic in Kramer Park afterwards. At the same time," Marv goes on, "Orange County State College, now Cal State Fullerton, was trying to reactivate the elephant races that had put it on the map in 1962. The college was growing and could not accommodate the races on campus. And Placentia just happened to have a prime piece of property where Tuffrey School was to be. And at that point, it was still a vacant lot. The college fraternity and the JCs got together, and the elephant race, dubbed Dumbo Derby, was added as the highlight of the first Heritage Festival. Okey-doke. There's the Dumbo Derbies. Okay, the race was run on Friday, May 21st, 1965, and included 6 entries from such diverse schools as Harvard, Long Beach City College, and of course, Orange County State College, which we now call Fullerton. Why the OCS entry Hannibal did not win, no one seemed to mind, and especially the spectators who scattered when one of the elephants decided to go straight from the start to his food in this trailer. So that was kind of exciting, and the crowd was estimated at around 10,000 people for the elephant race. If you get 6 elephants going down the road, I suppose you want a large crowd to protect you. Anyway, Marv goes on. After the excitement on Friday, the JCs needed a grand event, and they put on several. On Saturday, May 22nd at 2 p.m., the first annual Heritage Parade stepped off. The route's not given in Marvin's notes. But Bob McMacken was parade chairman, and the theme was Placentia Heritage. Frank Freeman, in a later interview, recalled that the parade was about 95 horses, 1 float, and 3 bands. So earlier that day, the Chamber of Commerce had put on their pancake breakfast at the Placentia Plaza. It was all you can eat for 75 cents. Yes, pretty fun. Okay, there we go. The festivities continued on Saturday with a street dance on Santa Fe Street sponsored by LULAC, a costume party at Alta Vista sponsored by the West Atwood Yacht Club, and a teen canteen dance at the Round Table Women's Club. And Reed concludes that Sunday after church services, the JCs hosted a picnic in Kramer Park featuring games, a baby contest, food, and races for the kids. Vic Michelle was mayor of Placentia at the time. So that's from Marv's comments. The springtime 3-day format was used for the next 4 years with some minor changes. Because of development on both Cal State's campus and within the city's boundaries, there was no longer enough open space to accommodate the elephant race. So the JCs tried to maintain the opening day excitement the next year with a fish fry at Valencia's cafeteria and a lecture by George Key in the Bax building. Now, George Key brought a number of pictures and implements there's George Key. He brought a number of implements from his ranch to display the lecture. Reed's report does not say what the attendance was, but I don't suppose it was anywhere near the 10,000 that had came out for the elephants. However, he does note that in the follow-up to the 1967, it was recommended to move Heritage Lecture up to the Valencia Auditorium to accommodate more people. So it was pretty well attended. And Hernando Yorba had joined Key for the lecture the following year, and in 1968, Walter Knott discussed the beginning of his berry farm and some of his favorite attractions. So by 1969, the Heritage Lecture was tweaked to increase interest and was transformed into a history bee and a historical exhibit at the new El Dorado High School. So Saturday morning festivities in those early years seemed to be sited exclusively along Bradford Avenue. The pancake breakfast fed 500 one year, and it was held in the Bank of America parking lot at the corner of Bradford and Chapman. Now, some of you may remember that was the building with the great ice block windows, and they tore it down in the 70s when they were widening Chapman Avenue. Well, the price seems to have held at 75 cents during this time. The parade stepped off at noon, and the only route that is mentioned is started at Madison Avenue and marched south to Kramer Park. So they came down to the park. The same parade theme repeated every year, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, with it even being proclaimed in Spanish in 1969, Ayer, hoy y mañana. The celebrations were always fresh with new activities, including things like a heritage home tour sponsored by the Placentia Yorba Heritage Society and the Round Table Women's Club. One year, there was a visit from the sister city in Tlaquepaque, Mexico, with a special event at Kramer Park. There's the Historical Society, the Placentia Yorba Heritage Society. They were incorporated in 1965, and they've disbanded in some course sometime. So if anybody can let me know when that disbanded, I'd appreciate hearing that, because if I don't have that information. Also that year, there was a soccer match one year at Valencia Stadium and an art exhibit at the Round Table. Saturday evenings were usually reserved for dances, and two that were listed were the All-City Social at the Alta Vista and the Heritage Romp at the Bagnell Ranch in Placentia. I found it interesting that often in the description of these early 3-day festivals, the Sunday morning started at church, sometimes even having sermons focus on the founders and the community heritage. But then, in the afternoon, the JCs held their community picnic with things like egg toss, beard mustache contests, turtle races, nail pounding contests, and sack races. You can see some of the photos around with these events going on. A kiddie parade, bike rodeo, even skateboard contests, games, and food booths all took place then in Kramer Park. In 1970, the festival theme remained yesterday, today, and tomorrow, but the festival itself had a major change under the Jaycees president, Marv Reed. Following recommendations from the preceding year, to avoid conflict with Armed Forces Day, which is the third Saturday in May, and to include more of the north part of the city, the festival was moved from May to October. It was expanded to a week-long celebration with events all over the city, and the parade was completely rerouted, but it still ended at Kramer Park. Again, I'll read from the written report. Quote, the festival week started on Monday, October 19th with a Frontier Night dinner and dance sponsored by the City of Placentia employees. It was a potluck affair at St. Joseph Parish Hall with $1 per person admission. At the Bax building, the Placentia Chorale put on a mini concert and a sing-along. On Wednesday, the city held an open house, and on Thursday, the city employees held a box lunch at Kramer Park. The women all brought a salad or a dessert, and the men contributed $1.50 for the main menu items. Now this just really appealed to me because in a personal observation, remember here's the feminine mystique. The women's movement is starting, and despite all of this activity around the world, the women's movement, women's liberation movement and all, the food preparation still appears to be the woman's domain in Placentia, and the men are just going to kick up the money for the food. So I just thought that was kind of fun. Early Friday evening, the Placentia Yorba Linda Heritage Society sponsored a heritage lecture, and a street dance was held from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., put on again by LULAC. Okay, the dance was originally planned for Santa Fe Street, but it moved to Bradford Avenue across from Kramer Park. On Saturday, October 24th, again started with the Chamber of Commerce pancake breakfast. Still, the price was all you could eat for $1. The parade, with Pinocchio as Grand Marshal, was staged at the El Dorado High School parking lot by the Jaycees under the direction of Chairman Frank Weidler. The parade traveled south on Valencia to Palm, west to Yorba Linda Boulevard to Kramer, south to Madison, west to Bradford, and then south again to Kramer Park. Awards were presented at the Bax building, and at 2 p.m. the El Dorado played its homecoming game against Sonora at Valencia Stadium. Around 3:30, the Boys Club held its groundbreaking ceremony for its new building at 132 Crowther, formerly the Velvet Turtle Restaurant, and before that the El Rosal Restaurant before that. So you know the El Rosal from the first talk. If you were here when, what's his name? Martin, indeed. Thank you, Martin. I can see him. He's always ready to talk about food, and he was telling us about the El Rosal. So the evening, everyone enjoyed a Mexican fiesta dance at St. Joseph Parish Hall. Sunday was observed with heritage-oriented church services again, but afterwards everyone came to the picnic in Kramer Park for food, games, pony rides, and contests. The Monami Children's Home Society transformed the Anderson Building in the park into a haunted house. The Anderson Building later became the Scout House, and Robert Fennell was mayor of Placentia. Reed then concludes his report for the 1970 event with the unusual note, earlier in the year, A.S. Buddy Bradford was installed as president of the Chamber of Commerce, and Chick Hearn was a guest speaker. Placentia also made news when the Bank of America was bombed. End of quote. So there's something else we need to put into the history room. Anybody know about that? Let us know. Reed remarks that a second major change in the Heritage Festival organization took place in 1971. Where's the 71? Concerned that groups other than the Jaycees were no longer participating, Marv Reed incorporated the festival as a nonprofit community-wide organization. The inaugural 17-member board of directors included several representatives of the Jaycees, the Chamber of Commerce, Junior Roundtable, the Roundtable Women's Club, the American Legion, the Boys Club, Rotary Club, the Placentia Yorba Heritage Society, and several individuals. This group enthusiastically got going and planned a 10-day festival that stretched from the Chamber's Pancake Breakfast on Saturday, September 25th, 1971, to the parade the following Monday, October 4th. And I don't know what was special about Monday, October 4th, that you could have a parade and have everybody come and have a picnic afterwards. It's not the weekend, it's the Monday. So I'm intrigued by that. If anybody can remember what was going on in 1971. The historical report says, for the first time, the picnic at Kramer Park followed the parade with many games and lots of food. Entertainment included Greek, Mexican, and Balkan dancers. Perhaps the most fun, though, was had by the contestants and spectators at the Orange Appeal contest. The Orange Appeal contestants had to peel and eat a whole orange with one hand tied behind their back. We don't have any pictures of that one either, so if any of you have pictures in your house, the first to finish won a bag of oranges. That evening, Alex Segovia and his committee from the LULAC held a dance at the St. Joseph's Parish Hall, and Sunday, October 3rd, was limited to Heritage Church services. On Monday, a mini concert and community sing-along was held at the Bax building. Now, this is, Reed's report mentions that in 1971, it was also the year that the city successfully submitted its bid for recognition as an All-America city. This was the second attempt, and the process, projects, and award should all be covered in another of our lectures at a later date. For now, suffice it to say that when the award was announced on February 28, 1972, the Heritage Festival Committee was asked to bring all its experience and know-how and create a grand two-day event in March to celebrate the achievement. The fall 1972 Heritage Festival continued the week-long format and introduced the Heritage Queen Contest. I thought it was fun, too, that in front of the Bax building, the sidewalks were decorated with chalk art by children under the age of 12 with the supervision of an art teacher. At the same time, a number of store windows around town were painted with scenes of Placentia using watercolor paint. Both the windows and the sidewalk art remained for the full festival week. Of course, we had the parade. The parade theme was a pleasant place to live, a festive place to be. And Reed described the route. Now see if you can walk through this one. Much like the Rose Parade, floats and equestrian parade entries were prejudged at the Valencia High School parking lot. Entries then returned to Kramer and Madison, where the parade began, going west on Madison to Bradford, south to Chapman, west to Murray, south again to Santa Fe, east to Bradford, to Center Street, to Alta, and finally to Chapman. Now that's quite a change from the first little trip down Bradford Avenue. In 1973, the Festival Committee held a contest for residents to design a logo for the festival. There was no single entry that met the expectations of the committee, so they combined two entries into a festival logo that would remain for 27 years, until the turn of the century. It was another week-long celebration that year, running from Saturday, October 6th through the parade on October 13th. Once again, children's activities, a dance for adults, the Sunday inspirations, music concerts, the city employee picnic, an equestrian show this time with judging, and the pancake breakfast, followed by the now famous Heritage Parade. Ever striving to broaden the festival's appeal, in 1974, the Jaycees played host to the regional finals of the National Punt, Pass, and Kick Contest at Valencia Stadium. In 1975, Reed recorded the following. Forecasts for the weekend were for rainy weather, so at the regular Tuesday City Council meeting, Jim Parks, Placentia's purchasing agent and a Cherokee Indian, did an anti-rain dance and issued a proclamation that there could never be rain on the Heritage Festival. And in fact, there really was only one time that rain hampered the festival. In 1976 and 77, the major innovation was to bring in an outside carnival to defray some of the costs of the festival. There was still open land for this at the southeast corner of Kramer and Yorba Linda 1 year, and then the southwest corner of Kramer and Chapman the next. Because there had been some problems, and since there was no more open space in the city, the carnival was discontinued in 1978, but activities were planned throughout the week. At the conclusion of the 1978 festival, the committee had dwindled in size to a few people, including Chairman Marv Reed. The parade was staged primarily by the Reed family, Ed Houston, and a few neighbors, and insurance costs were becoming prohibitive. Chairman Reed wrote to the city for assistance, and the city recommended that the festival be included with the Chamber of Commerce for budget and insurance purposes and for manpower assistance. So the next year, the Chamber agreed to assist the Heritage Festival Committee by providing insurance coverage, providing a liaison member, but only helping with some of the planning. The Chamber's manpower was indeed tied up with the breakfast. Based on the report starting in 1980, it seems that in the next several years, most energy was put on organizing the parade. Local bands welcomed other marchers from Foothill, Canyon, University, Cajon, Troy, and Brea Olinda high schools, and the Orange County Philharmonic Society. The pancake breakfast was a constant, even though the cost went up to $2 per person or $5 per family. There were events in Kramer Park, at the Bradford House, or in the Bax building that showcased art, music, classic cars, quilting, and ice cream. In 1985, the first good news for the committee was that the city could finish the poles for a banner hung across Kramer to bring better awareness of the festival to more people. And this is the banner. I'm not sure it was the first one. This is one that we used eventually. This was finished just 2 weeks before the festival. Secondly, Snoopy was available for the Grand Marshal for the parade. The theme Rediscover Placentia seemed appropriate as the parade was on Columbus Day, October 12th. Frank Freeman, the original president of the Jaycees and first proponent of the festival, was asked to come back as the honorary marshal. The parade review stand was always in front of St. Joseph Church. However, several band directors asked if the bands could be judged earlier in the parade before some of the marchers got tired. The committee decided to put up risers in front of the post office and judge the bands there. The only problem was that the risers were not really tall enough for the judges to see everything, and that idea was abandoned for future years. Accounts for the next 2 years concentrate on details of parade winners and festival activities, but the big item of note is that Marv Reed resigned as advisor and moved to San Diego, but he, quote, continued to attend some meetings. So here we have, every parade held a grand marshal and distinguished guests. On occasion, there were celebrity grand marshals who at the time were well known, but many whose names I had to Google in order to identify. Walter Knott was the first to serve as grand marshal, and Mayor Simon Sanchez of Tlaquepaque, Mexico, served in that role 4 years later. Placentia residents honored with this distinction include Mayor Jack Gomez, Virginia Farmer, May Lemke, Cecil Rosspaw, Bob Snell, and Lawrence Kramer, John and Clary Tynes, Albert and Matilda Yorba, George and Hannah Key, Don Oberly, Linda Owen, and Ellie Rankin. Chamber of Commerce Man and Woman of the Year, John Marston and Ruth Roway, rode 1 year. There were Desert Storm Warriors, Major Gregory Raths, Lance Corporal Sherry Pike, and Specialist Paul Swing were recognized for their service. Athletes filled the role many times, and these included bodybuilder Sean Ray and karate grand champion Tiger Yang, Olympic medal winners Janet Evans and Michelle Granger, baseball players Oral Hershiser and Phil Nevin, Jimmy Campanis and Brett Tomko, and the College World Series champion team from Cal State Fullerton. Entertainment personalities who came were actor Dan Fisher and Johnny Grant, Connie Newton and Adam Rich, Hollywood directors James Cameron and Chris Buck, Ed Arnold, Lauren Kitchens, and Ted Zeigerbush. And there were 2 weathermen, Bob Hale and Henry DiCarlo, and a newswoman, Wendy Birch. Not to forget the tuba soloist and Guinness World Record holder Stan Freeze. Of course, many of us also remember the fun characters who sparked up the parade as Grand Marshals like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Pinocchio, Roger the Rabbit, Grover of Sesame Street, Ronald McDonald, and last but not least, the 8,000-pound elephant named Ty. Now she served in the parade. She's marched in several parades, so she became kind of a mainstay for a while too. One interesting story from Reed's report dealt with the rock band, the Haywoods. Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods, who served 2 times as Grand Marshals. The band was formed in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1965 by their leader, Bo Donaldson. They were first discovered while touring with the Osmonds in the early 1970s. In 1973, they were just starting out and appreciated the exposure in our parade. By 1976, they were nationally known, had several hit records, including Billy, Don't Be a Hero. Do you remember that one? Billy, don't be a hero. And enjoyed popularity among the young teens. So Reed tells us, quote, when they were asked to join the parade again as Grand Marshals, they said since Placentia had been so good to them in '73, they would love to make a repeat performance. The only problem was there was no vehicle in the parade big enough to hold the whole group, and they didn't want to split up. That was solved by the local firefighters who had restored an old Seagrave fire engine for the parade. So Bo Donaldson sat up front in the truck, and the Haywoods sat all over the ladders and hoses in back, and everyone had a great time. Early in 1988, things were not going that well with the festival committee. A homemaker from Yorba Linda was disputed as the festival chairperson, so the festival treasurer persuaded the city council to withhold city funds and permits for the separately incorporated festival committee. The city council took that action in March, which made it impossible for the disputed committee to continue. The council then appointed a new 5-member group called the Placentia Heritage Committee. Betty Escoboza, Director of Human Services, who had been the city's liaison to the former committee, was appointed to head the new group until a chairperson could be elected. Reed rejoined the festival planners later that year. The festival followed the usual format with the pancake breakfast starting the day's activities and the picnic in the park following the parade. To dress up the parade route, the Heritage Committee decided to put up American flags along on the route and allowed residents to adopt flags at specific flagpoles. They hoped to get 16 flags adopted for $100 each, but they ended up with 25 donors. This started the Adopt a Flag program that has been expanded to not only the parade routes, but to most of Placentia's main streets. The 25th annual festival was in 1989, so the theme was Silver Jubilee. Chairpersons of the festival and the parade hoped to recreate the original festival, but there were neither ample open land to hold an elephant race, nor enough elephants available to race. So instead, the committee hired the 8,000-pound elephant named Ty to be Grand Marshal. The original festival chairman, Frank Freeman, and the early elephant race chairman, Ben Wade, rode again as honorary marshals. The parade route was shortened to start at Kramer and Madison and go down Madison to Bradford and then to Kramer Park, very similar to that first route that we mentioned. The picnic in the park had a great variety of food and game booths and excellent entertainment. The last entertainers at 4 o'clock were mariachis, who then led a, quote, second parade to the Tlaquepaque restaurant for the official dedication of Placita Santa Fe Old Town. Parade and festivals went well for the next few years following the successful established pattern. Bands came from as far away as Riverside and Ventura. The city's trolley provided transportation from Kramer Park to events at Bradford Park. Pinocchio was a popular character as Grand Marshal, once permission had been obtained from Disney to allow him to appear. And the largest crowd to date showed up, 15,000 strong, to watch the parade. A new event was added this year when the committee and the Cultural Arts Committee put on a harvest hoedown at Kramer Park on Sunday afternoon, October 11th. It included square dancing, pony rides, and hay rides, a salsa cook-off, food, music, games, displays, and crafts. This would only be repeated one more year before it was enfolded back into the Saturday picnic. The very next year, in 1993, the theme was "Our Strength is Our People," and Mr. Universe runner-up Sean Ray was Grand Marshal. Unhappily, because of concerns by the school district, the Southern California School Band and Orchestra Association official parade judges were discontinued that year, and bands were only judged for enthusiasm. This was somewhat of a disappointment to parade planners and onlookers, as it reduced the participating bands to just the 6 local bands. But according to Reed, quote, "They did a great job in keeping the parade lively," unquote. After the traditional date of the second weekend in October was established, it varied only one time, in 1997, when the Jewish Yom Kippur fell on that Saturday. Since there had always been a close alliance with the churches and respect for Sunday services, it was a natural step for the City Council to move the festival to the first weekend that year. Major changes took place in the year 2000. The judged band review was restored and 19 bands signed up to march, the highest number ever. That was also the year the festival venue was moved to Tri-City Park because the event had grown so much. After months of discussion and protest by residents in the southern area of the city who felt the festival should stay where it started, the City Council adopted the new parade route and festival location. So then the planners inaugurated the Taste of Placentia as the opening event on Friday, October 13th on Santa Fe Avenue. And here Eric tried to get a picture, but we didn't have any pictures of the Santa Fe Taste of Placentia. So there were a couple pictures that he wasn't able to get with the big bands and the street fair here. So that's why there's this long gap. The next day at Tri-City, there were new and old games, crafts, food booths, and an expanded car show, including 200 vehicles and a few helicopters. Now, when one of the helicopters took off towards the end of the afternoon, it stirred up both a lot of dust and the ire of a number of car owners who had to clean the cars off. After steady old Ty finished in the parade, she delighted children in the park with lumbering elephant rides. There were also pony rides. Model sailboats, races, and fly fish demonstrations could be seen in the park lagoon. Several shuttle buses carried parade goers from Kramer Park to Tri-City Park, with stops at Valencia High School and the parade starting area at Valencia and Baston Cherry. The planning committee felt that the huge increase in both attendance and activities at the park justified the change in venues for the festival. In 2001, people still questioned the use of Tri-City Park, but the parade route started at Kramer and Madison, but the band review was held on Alta Vista. So the route for the bands was 2.5 miles, and it was 1 5/8 miles for everyone else, which is a long time to carry your tuba. Unsurprisingly, there were requests from both the school bands and some parade entries for a shorter parade route. So in 2002, the City Council finally approved a route starting on Kramer and Morse that went straight north on Kramer to Tri-City Park, making the route a more manageable 1.25 miles. The band review was on Palm Drive, feeding back into Morse and Kramer via Angelina, with a length of 1.75 miles. Costs for the pancake breakfast that year reached $5 a plate. Okay, it was really going. And the car show recorded an all-time high of 267 cars, and everyone there was guaranteed there would be no helicopters coming or going. There were 110 entries and 18 bands in the parade, with 54 craft vendors and 26 food booths in the park. The Heritage Festival was, to use a current popular term, huge. For a second time, the Taste of Placentia, sponsored by the Santa Fe Merchants Association, had started the festival on Friday night, but this year restaurants from other parts of the city also took part. It looked like the original dream of the JCs to unite the community was at last achieved. The state budget deficit in 2003 reduced the amount of funding normally returned to cities. Quote, the cities in turn had to trim their budgets. In the process, funding for the festival was reduced, and funding for the Taste of Placentia and Chamber of Commerce was cut completely. Without the extra funding, the downtown merchants decided not to continue the taste event. They would, however, return 3 years later in 2006 with their special menus. Fortunately, major efforts by the festival committee resulted in great sponsorship donations, and the Heritage Festival was able to continue with only some minor reductions in the activities. The parade route and picnic site remained the same as the previous year, and Saturday's events started with the pancake breakfast as usual. Over 60 craft booths provided a choice of items, and 25 food booths kept everyone well fed. The car show, again, topped 250 cars. That year, the Chamber of Commerce moved their business showcase into the festival as well. So, for 50 years, the Heritage Festival has been pulled off as planned. Weather has only affected the parade on 3 occasions. The only year the parade marched in the rain was 2007, when apparently the force of Jim Park's anti-rain dance had finally worn off. However, heat was an issue in 1976 when there were several fires in the area, and the morning of the parade was hot and smoky with the temperature reaching 99 degrees. With 17 bands in the parade in their heavy uniforms, a total of 26 band members and spectators were treated by paramedics for heat prostration, and 6 people needed treatment at Placentia Linda Hospital, but they were all shortly released. And then, as we all remember, last year, heat problems severely plagued the Heritage Festival. Triple-digit temperatures caused 60 people to come down with heat-related illnesses. Both the parade and the festival shut down early. There were many individuals along the way who handled the myriad details that come with planning a major community event. Some were so dedicated that they carried out the job for many years. I hesitated to name anyone in particular, trying to avoid slighting anyone, but I do know that there are several names that just stand out. Marv Reed, Ed Houston, Eileen and Bruce Hunt Jr., Ann Russell, Carol Nixon, Fred Perez, Jim Cusalone, and Tommy Coleman. For these people, it was a multi-year dedication, truly beyond the average volunteer service. Festival committee and parade chairpersons routinely accepted suggestions and comments and used them to guide the plans for the following years. It took 3 years to work out the shift in venue to please the majority of community members, but the diplomacy and effort made in doing this is admirable. As we look forward to the 2016 Heritage Days, I hope many of you in this room will consider joining the chairperson, Janice Lotcher, and enjoy the event from the inside out and become active in our community tradition. Now, the Historical Committee has had hours of fun and camaraderie making several floats over the years. These horses that you see here in front of the room are actual artifacts from a float that the Historical Committee put together one year. We were trying to duplicate the first float that Placentia put into the Fullerton Parade. And it was, and I'm not sure what year that was either, I should have looked that up, I'm sorry, but it was a carriage that was drawn with 6 horses. So we didn't have the 6 horses. So we made 6 horses. We put them on the front of a vehicle, and I'm not sure how we would have secured it because you wouldn't hot glue it to somebody's front hood, but somehow or other they were put there, and then we had a group of girls come along who were supposed to sing this famous Placentia song. Unfortunately, with the best laid plans, you always have one little glitch. We had these nice soft-voiced girls singing this Placentia song, and only marching in front of us was the jazzercise people with their boombox and their music. So we never heard the words of the Placentia Plain song. But this all started because Elvia Torres was a member of the committee and in the 1980s, and she challenged us to make a parade entry that would copy some of the elegant Rose Parade floats, and that had, in part of their design, was the changing images of several floats. So what she said was, let's make a mural, and she coerced her son and 2 of his friends to get inside these 3 boxes, which we had covered on 4 sides with different images. So they would march down the street a certain distance, stop on cue and put the boxes down, turn 90 degrees, pick the box up, and turn forward with the new image coming across the front, and march down the street. It was very cost effective. We all enjoyed watching it and doing it, and I just wish more folks would be able to get together and do this. Over a period of several weeks, we worked together in Elvia's backyard to create the revolving marching mural. So that's how that happened up. Then we also did a crate of oranges, where we put the crate of oranges onto a truck. My pickup truck was covered with the oranges and the balloons. I don't remember if we blew them up by hand or if there was a machine that helped us. And we marched on down the street. Here's another one that we did with the oil wells. It was the history with the oil and the city hall. And then here is Marie Schmidt and Elvia Torres and Larry DeGraff and John Walczek. So those folks are riding there. I think that one was behind the mural as they walked down the street. So if you haven't had time yet, please do take time to look at the murals, the pictures around the room, and some of the floats that were here. And you can see parts of them from the garage. And then if you have any questions, or I suspect there are quite a few of you here who might have been in some of the parades. If you'd like to share some of your stories, it would be great to do that now. If anybody has a story or an incident that they...
You know, Kathy, you also have several members of the Heritage Committee, past and present, that are here. So maybe they can stand and be...
Okay, now see, I suspected there might be somebody here. That's why I thought there might be someone who wanted to stand up and share. Is there, okay? If you can name them, Steve, why don't you come on?
I'm Frank Perez.
Oh, Frank Perez, there you go. There you go. Anybody else? There's someone pointing.
Jim Kukulon.
June Kukulon, I did not know how to say your name. I'm so sorry.
I wanted to share that one year Eileen Hunt had asked me to try and get an elephant for the parade. And I searched and searched, and without knowing it, I came across Ty, and I just heard tonight that Ty had been in the parade several times before, and so I managed to get the Ty to come out
The same one.
times after that.
Oh, great, great. Well, she really became just kind of a standing, and because she would give rides in the park up there afterwards.
I
Yeah.
arranged for the Ty to stick around at the park to do rides afterwards.
Oh, great.
All the kids love that.
Oh, Jim, I'm so glad. Thank you very much, Ty. Ty was great.
Vivian Perez, who helps with all of the publicity for many years.
Ah, okay. Nice to meet you, Vivian. And was that a hassle to get the banners up? And can you tell us about how to get that banner up, or was that not during your reign?
That wasn't during my time, but we used to do we used to do flyers the old-fashioned way and bundle them up in packets of 25 for all of the school kids, and that's how we generated interest in the community event.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's even done now, which I still think that's a great idea. Low cost and easy to communicate with the families. The other is also too, we used to do a program, and I've got about 5 years worth of programs. I even have one of our mayor, who at that time was probably about 10 or 12, sitting on a car in front of one of the historic houses, and he was just so excited that he got a certificate to McDonald's that he framed it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
always remind him.
That's great. Well, that would be a wonderful thing if you ever decide to contribute those to the the Placentia History Room. Hannah is Hannah is here. Hannah is the new coordinator of the history room.
History room librarian. I started last Monday, so this is my second week. Yeah, so welcome. Thanks for coming. Thank you. I wish I could see that orange eating contest.
I could too. Wouldn't that have been? You know what? I was trying to use one of the little cuties this week to see if I could really do it. But, you know, I think it must have been a real trick. You had to have strong fingers. You know someone else?
Yes, our community services staff, Sandra Gonzalez is our new community services
Okay,
director. She's
okay.
here with us today.
There you go, Sandra, there you go.
Veronica Ortiz is our community services supervisor, and she's the lead staff person for the Heritage Festival.
Ah, okay, Veronica, okay, good.
She does a great job.
I
That's
just
good.
want to add to what everyone here is saying, beyond the committee, they do so much all year, and then when it comes down to that week before, I know just from, I'm gonna live it this year, but I've lived it the last few months, every month at our meetings, the PD, Public Works, Community Services, they are around the clock for about 3 days, setting up and getting the streets set up, getting all the vendor booths, and it's really a super, super exciting time for the city.
Oh, it really is. And there are so many details that I just can't imagine. You know, if you don't have a handbook to pass on from one year to the next, it would just be bedlam to start over each year. So anybody else? Yeah.
Kathy, I just want to say that the Boy Scouts, Indian Guides, Indian Maidens, a lot of different community organizations, the kids all marched. Even the sports teams would march in that parade too.
Yes, sometimes there's quite a display of youth in the parade. One year when I was a brownie leader, that was one of the mistakes I made, was that we said, oh, we're going to take our girls down and march them in the parade, and they had on their little brownie uniforms, you know, the little brown ones that were very tan, and as soon as you got them wet, they turned dark, and we were going to blow bubbles down the parade route. So, of course, they were holding their bubbles before the parade started, and they couldn't wait to do the bubbles, so we were doing bubbles up there as we were waiting to get in line for the parade, and by the time the parade actually started, they just looked like they'd been in water fights. They were just, yeah, so you had to be careful if you're going to be in the parade. So, did you have something you wanted to share? No? Okay. Yes?
Okay. And now I guess I'll give my sales pitch. I've been with the festival since like
1999.
2000,
Yeah.
1999.
so I'm probably one of the older people that's been in. It's been a really nice festival. I've seen it grow. I've seen the downfalls that we've had, you know, so everything has that. For our 50th that we had, at that time we had 13 in our committee. We bumped
That
out.
sounds about right.
So after 50th, we went down to 5. Yeah. So, you know, we all gave, basically we would give it all to the 50th. Okay. So this is my sales pitch. If you're interested in helping us out, be a volunteer. Our meetings are second Wednesday of the month at 6:30. They last about an hour, hour and a half. Sometimes they're 2 hours. Okay. But if you just want to step in, just hear what we're doing and stuff like that, feel free to join us. Okay. If you're interested in participating, we've always got work for everybody. We've got, if you're good in marketing, if you're good in talking to people and stuff like that, by all means, help us out. I mean, it's a good family event. It will always grow, you know, and I think, you know, the city, I mean, we've all been there, so, and I think all of you come to the festival and stuff like that, and you know that it's a good family event. I work for LA Unified, so I see large festivals at our campuses and stuff like that. The festival that we have, it's probably one of the most well-run that I've ever seen. And it's one of those things that we all got to be happy about, that our little city here can basically pull something off. I mean, we had 28,000 people that came through. It's the largest moneymaker for the nonprofits in the area. All the food booths are basically either by the local nonprofits, or they team up with the business and the proceeds go to that. All the money that's basically made from the event basically supplants what the city basically gives us in a donation form. And, you know, we don't make any money. At the end of the day, the money goes back in the pot. We make it happen for the following year. So,
That's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your help. I would like one more testimony from Steve. He mentioned that one of your first jobs over here in Placentia, when you moved over from Fullerton, was to MC the parade for
Thank you,
the,
Kathy.
yes, I wanted you to share
I had the
that.
opportunity, I started with the city in 1986, I came over, I worked for the city of Fullerton before that. I know, I was only 5 when I came over. And so 1987 was my first Heritage Festival, and they needed someone to help announce the parade. So, Steve, what do you think? I had a little experience doing some cable television things in Fullerton, so I volunteered along with someone that was actually a professional. And so the two of us, that's when the parade went northbound. And so we were in front of the post office, there's a dentist's office, and we were sitting up on the stairs of the dentist's office in 2 chairs sitting up above. And we had our script, and I thought, I don't need to practice, I can just read the script, I'm sure it'll be no problem. And so we had the script, and I'm looking at it right before the parade started, and had good descriptions of the bands and of the VIPs that were in the parade. And so I said, okay, we're ready to go. So we start, and we're filming, and first thing that comes up is one of the VIPs. And so I'm talking about the VIP, and then my co-host says, tell us a little bit about the car, Steve. And it was an old car. There was no description of it. I'm not a car guy. I could have used Frank out there to help me. And so my next statement was, you know, he's driving in a really nice old car. So needless to say, my debut as an announcer for the parade, I needed a little more work and a little more help. But it was a lot of fun even back then, which is almost 30 years ago now. And it's a great event. It's a great community partnership, as it's been mentioned, with the nonprofits, with the schools, with the city staff, along with all of the volunteers, and it's just a great, we want to see another 50 years, so if you want to come out and be a part of it, as Frank shared, please do, and the community services staff is great leadership for you as well. So
Great,
thank you.
yes. Okay, yeah, oh, you have another question? Yes, one more statement.
Jim again.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to say that really a big part of the festival is the car show. And Frank and Bruce do a fantastic job, and you've seen it grow and grow, and they really are a big part of that festival. And I want to make sure they get a...
Oh, Rick Hemmett, okay, thank you. Yeah.
They really put in a lot of work, and it was basically, I don't know if it still is, basically just them two, and they would just get family members and friends to help out, and it really was a big, big thing.
Do you have to contact people, or do they kind of know about the parade now and come to show?
They pass out flyers.
Pass out flyers.
They
Oh, you
walk
do?
all of the car shows throughout the year.
Oh, that is a dedicated service. Thank you. Yes.
And I was, another thing, I was, those of you that don't know, I'm more or less the special events person. So most of the special things that were involved in the parade or at the festival, I was one responsible for finding those people.
Oh, yes.
For those groups.
The entertainment.
I can't even remember all of them. I know one of the bigger ones were the stormtroopers.
Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
Wells Fargo Stagecoach. I was able to get Knott's Berry Farm to bring out a stagecoach one year. It was a
Oh.
big, big effort.
Uh-huh.
I got Medieval Times to come out with all their horses. All the,
That's great.
Big event there. I remember that was in the parking lot of El Dorado High School. They all gathered. They were really excited about coming out because they were going to use us as a practice because the following New Year's they were marching at the Rose Parade for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I contacted them, they talked about it. They said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great thing."
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to think of who else I was able to. I got several people from radio stations. KTLA 5, I had an inside connection there. So for several years, I had several people from Channel 5. Henry DeCarlo you mentioned, but there was others just.
Was that where Ed Arnold was? Is he from there, or is he?
No, not
He's.
Ed Arnold.
Okay.
I think he might have come out. I didn't.
You didn't do
personally
him.
get
Okay. Yeah.
Jessica Holmes. I can't remember. There were several of them that I
Mhm.
was able to get, and I can say in general, just about everybody that I got, like Frank said, they all said of all the parades that they've all come out to, this was the most well-run, most well-organized, and we really enjoyed coming out to see it. It was was truly a family event, and hopefully it can continue. And, you know, I'm not on the committee anymore, but like Frank said, we always encourage people to come out. You know, you have comments, you have suggestions, come on out and help, you know? There's always little things or big things, whatever amount of time you have to help, it's always appreciated. It really is.
Thank you.
And along that line, one thing to take advantage of is to shadow some of these longtime Heritage Committee members and get your feet wet in that way. You did a great job of coordinating those special events and activities, and
Yeah.
you're selling yourself short, but all of the behind the scenes things that need to happen
Oh, yeah.
to even allow those special groups to come out. They needed to have all of these insurances that they were gonna have a private location to change, all of the different things that they needed. That was always accommodated by the committee, so they've always done a great job.
Does the committee have a celebration of any kind when you get together? I know you meet after the parade and you take in comments and you find out what's going on and make plans for the next year. Do you have a kind of
Yeah, we do
celebration?
a debrief and a little potluck that we do here at City Hall.
A potluck? Okay,
And
yeah,
then we
okay.
do a complete debrief, what we liked about it, what we could do better, you know, what our game plan is for the following year. I mean, we invite, of course, all the city, PD, you know,
Yeah.
everybody, you know, just like this last year when the heat. I mean, we invited PD, paramedics, fire department, everybody, community, whatever. Let's hear from you what we have and what you thought was good, what we could do better
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Sure,
So,
because that's going to be a problem,
because that's the only way
continues.
you learn. You learn by your mistakes, and then you move forward.
I was just thinking of a celebration more in line with the dugout after the end of the World Series. You know, the room where everybody's shaking bottles of champagne and shooting each other. So maybe some year you can do that. Okay, everybody, thank you so much again for coming.
But we could use you.
Yes.
I
Oh.
just want to remind everyone, if you don't mind, please fill out the evaluation forms.
Oh.
It really helps us when we're planning.
Yes, I never remembered to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, there you go.